Hi, I'm Luke Moore. I'm a composer, arranger, and session musician based in Liverpool. My first instrument's the cello. I tend to specialise in scoring string arrangements for bands and solo artists. Thanks very much, Rosie, for challenging me to put together a little bit of a background on a completely new piece and talk about process and explore that. I've just put a few photos of some of my work so people get a little bit of a flavour of what I normally do. For this challenge, I decided to throw myself completely in at the deep end and produce a new piece of music. So, of course, that presents a couple of questions. The first of those is where to start, what to write a piece about. I wanted this to be completely fresh, so I had a cursory glance on Twitter to see what was going on in the world, and I noticed the hashtag Earth Day 2020 was trending. So that decided the theme very early on for me. The other thing I was conscious of was, were there any other pieces, particularly well-known ones, that were based on the same sort of themes? So a few came to mind. The biggest of those was Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde, which is Song for the Earth. So just out of curiosity, I had a quick look at some of the text from all six movements, and the final movement really resonated. There were a couple of lines in there, and the translation into English is actually on the Wikipedia page if you look for it. But a couple of things really jumped out, especially given where we are now. Just using the English translation, there's a piece of the writing that says, "The earth breathes in full rest and sleep. All longing now becomes a dream." And that really struck a bit of a chord. That particular stanza finishes with the birds roost silent in their branches, the world falls asleep. Now, whilst I consider Mahler a composer who I'm a big fan of, this piece is actually one that I'm not particularly familiar with. I'm a little bit more familiar with the earlier symphonies. The Fourth Symphony is the first one I ever got to play in an orchestra, so that's always going to have a special place in my heart. But I thought, okay, I'm not going to be clouded by the existing music, so let's try and write something which isn't a rewriting of this, but just uses the text very much front and centre as a way to create something fresh. And with this being a completely new piece, I thought I'd take a different approach and incorporate an element which I don't normally, which is actually having an actor providing a voice and reading some of the text that we decided to use. And that's where Eva Ledkowska comes in. She's an actor who's based in Wales, and I was really impressed by her show reel a couple of weeks ago. So within a couple of hours, I'd messaged her and said, any chance you can send this over? She'd recorded it and sent it back. It immediately sat really, really well with the piano and the strings had already started laying down. So a few of the ideas were there, the reading was there, and that pretty much informed how the rest of the piece was put together. It was a bit of a race against time, as I'd made the agreement with myself to finish it before the end of Earth Day. It took me about 3 hours to put the rest of the piece together and get it mixed. So a little bit earlier, I'd made the decision to cut up the text rather than just have it read all in one chunk. And I just finished this piece with the last line repeated 3 times. The last line, Die Welt schlaft ein, actually translates as the world falls asleep. And I wanted that to come 3 times and be slightly different and a bit more faded and maybe a little bit haunted on the last time because it sort of brings us back to where we are right now. Maybe that's an illusion people might not draw in the future, but that was very much my mindset when I was finishing off the piece. So that's a little snapshot of my process, just producing a piece like this. I think as composers, we get so used to working to other people's briefs, which is brilliant when we're getting commissioned. But sometimes it's nice to make something completely for our own love of what we do. Just like to say thanks again to Rosie for challenging me to do this. I've really enjoyed listening to her music and everybody else that does the Feedback Friday tweet over at BBC Introducing, which is how I came across Fultress originally. Good luck to everyone who's applying for funding and just trying to keep being creative during these difficult times. If you'd like to hear any more of the collaborations, you can find those at oplightfoot.bandcamp.com, and Operation Lightfoot are on Spotify too. And feel free to give me a follow over on Twitter, so at Luke Moore Music, and over on Instagram it's Luke M Cello. Thanks very much, and thanks again for listening. This is Of the Earth.
Der Bach singt voller Wohllaut durch das Dunkel. Die Blumen blasen im Dämmerschein. Die Erde atmet voll von Ruhe und Schlaf. Alle Sehnsucht will nun träumen. Die müden Menschen gehen heimwärts, um im Schlaf vergessenes Glück und Jugend neu zu lernen. Die Vögel hocken still in ihren Zweigen. Die Welt schläft ein. Die Welt schläft ein.